Nearly lost everything in the divorce, but I fought back against my cheating wife in court with irrefutable evidence. I work as a primary school teacher, which means my work schedule is pretty routine. I have set hours at the school, and Tuesday afternoons are always reserved for staff meetings that generally last until 6 p.m. So on those days, I would normally get home around 7 o'clock. My wife, Terry, whom I have been married to for 31 years, often felt very exhausted on Tuesday evenings after her gym workouts, so I would usually take charge of making dinner while she took a shower and handled other chores around the house. One particular Tuesday, though, something unexpected happened. Our school principal decided to cancel the staff meeting. It was still early, only 3:30, and I thought to myself, why not surprise Terry by heading home early? I could get a head start on making dinner, and maybe even take care of a few chores before Terry returned from her gym session. Recently, I had started to notice that she seemed more distant, and I thought that an early night, complete with a nice meal, candlelight, and a calm atmosphere, might help us reconnect. Our relationship had been going through a rough patch for some time, mostly due to financial problems, and I noticed Terry becoming increasingly withdrawn. She seemed to crave more control over many aspects of our life, and became more stubborn and argumentative whenever things didn't go her way. Despite all this, I always tried to be patient. That day, I arrived home just like any other day, parking the car in the garage. Our garage is located a fair distance from the house, something we did on purpose back when our kids were small. We wanted to make sure the noise of the car wouldn't wake them up, as their sleep was precious not only for their own health, but also for our sanity. I parked the car and began the familiar walk up to our two-story house. I noticed that Terry's car was parked in the garage, which wasn't too unusual since she often opted to take the bus on gym days. I entered through the back door, and my first thought was that I should tidy up the space a little bit. I've always liked fixing things around the house, and I made sure all the door hinges, locks, and moving parts were well-oiled and silent. There's nothing more annoying than a creaky door when you're trying to relax. The first thing that caught my eye, though, was Terry's handbag on the kitchen counter. She never left her purse just lying around. She was always very particular about keeping it with her. It was definitely strange. Her gym clothes, a tight leotard and a large towel, were also lying on the floor near the counter, which was unusual for her. Then I heard some noises coming from our bedroom upstairs. For a moment, I thought that maybe Terry had come down with something and wasn't feeling well. I cautiously made my way up the carpeted stairs, almost tripping over a pair of men's shoes left on the steps. Those were definitely not my shoes, and neither were the pants, shirt, tank top, or socks that were scattered further along the stairs. Mixed in with them were Terry's underwear, the special ones she wore only on very rare occasions, like our wedding anniversaries. I stopped in my tracks. My skin felt cold and clammy, my vision blurred, and my heart skipped a beat. I had to sit down on the stairs for a moment just to collect myself. My initial shock and disbelief quickly turned into a seething rage, a feeling that I rarely experience. Normally, I'm calm and in control, traits that come in handy when managing a classroom full of kids, but at that moment, my usual composure completely left me. Adrenaline coursed through my veins, and I felt a raw anger that was entirely new to me. Despite the turmoil inside me, curiosity took over. I quietly made my way up the rest of the stairs and into our shared closet. There were two doors ahead, one that led to our bedroom and the other to the upstairs bathroom. To get to the bedroom, I needed to pass through the ensuite bathroom, which connected to our spacious walk-in closet, and from there, I could access the bedroom. At the door leading to the bedroom, I noticed it was slightly ajar, just enough for me to see through to what lay beyond. It felt like a scene from a nightmare, yet I couldn't tear my eyes away. The sounds, the moans and grunts, continued, growing louder and more intense. My disbelief was quickly replaced by a cold, bitter fury. I took out my phone and began recording what I saw. I knew I would need this proof, both for myself and for the inevitable confrontation. My gaze remained fixed on the awful scene in front of me. My wife, the woman I had loved and trusted for so many years, the mother of our children, was in bed with another man. She had always been the person I trusted most in the world. She had professed her love for me countless times, yet here she was, betraying me in the worst way imaginable. I stopped recording, turned around, and quietly made my way back down the stairs and out of the house. I didn't know where I was going. I just kept walking. Eventually, I ended up in a park miles away. I splashed some water on my face, sat down on a bench, and watched the video on my phone, keeping the volume low to avoid drawing attention. Everything I had known about my life had been torn apart, and the reality of my shattered marriage was now there, recorded in vivid detail. I finally let myself cry. It was around 7 p.m. when I returned home, like I usually would on a typical Tuesday after a staff meeting. Terry could tell right away that something was wrong. My unkempt appearance, red eyes, and pale face must have been a giveaway. "Honey, what's wrong? You look terrible. Is everything okay?" she asked, her voice filled with genuine concern. "Let me give you something to drink. Are you feeling all right?" I couldn't bring myself to tell her the truth. "Not yet." In a shaky voice I said, "No, not really. I think something I ate for lunch didn't agree with me. I'm just going to take a shower and head to bed." "Okay, hon, but make sure you take a container with you. If you end up throwing up, we don't want it on the clean sheets," she said, trying to sound cheerful. Those sheets, once clean, now symbolized something far worse, the betrayal I had just witnessed. I replied more firmly, "It's all right. I'll sleep in the spare room tonight until I feel better." And with that, I made my way to the spare bedroom downstairs. This was how the next few days went. Terry continued with her usual routine, completely unaware of the change in me. I went through my daily motions at work on autopilot and kept sleeping in the spare bedroom, using my supposed illness as an excuse. Eventually, I moved back into our bedroom, but it felt like torture. I could hardly sleep in the same space where I had seen her betray me. Terry acted as though nothing had happened. On Monday, I finally made up my mind about what to do next. I needed to know if what I had seen was just a one-off mistake or if it was something more. I called my principal and told him that I needed to undergo an unexpected medical procedure the following day. He arranged for a substitute teacher to take over my class. On Tuesday morning, I left the house as usual but parked my car a few streets away, then walked back to our neighborhood, using the back routes I knew well. I made my way to our garage, which was located at the back of the house, and waited. I remembered that there hadn't been an extra car parked at our house the previous Tuesday when I had walked in on them, so I guessed that whoever this man was, he must have walked here. I took cover in the garden, hidden behind the hedges and bushes we had planted years ago for privacy. From my hiding spot, I had a clear view of our front door. I watched as Terry went about her usual morning activities, doing chores in the kitchen, operating the dishwasher, and cleaning the living room. Everything seemed completely routine until around 11:30. Then she went upstairs, and I could faintly hear the sound of the shower running, followed by silence and the toilet flushing. She returned downstairs about 45 minutes later, opened the front door, and left it slightly ajar. I didn't have to wait long. Around 12:30, I saw him, the same man. He walked in from the left side of the gate, confidently entering our home. I took out my phone and recorded about 10 seconds of video, capturing his face clearly. "Hey, lover," he called out. "Ready for another big workout?" "Of course," Terry responded. "You know I always wear this just for you." It was painfully obvious that this wasn't the first time. I watched them head towards the bedroom, and then I slipped back into the garage. My heart pounded, and my mind raced with questions. Who was this man? How long had this been going on? Could I ever stay with Terry after this? Update 1*, being a teacher, I had access to a lot of resources like computers, printers, and other things. I decided to use them to my advantage. I began by printing out stills from the video footage I had captured on my phone to help me identify who this man was. It didn't take long. On the following Thursday, Terry had her usual gym session, and I suggested that I join her. I told her that I wanted to see if I'd like to become a member too, especially since I had a break from school because of midterms. She seemed hesitant at first, but eventually she agreed. When we arrived at the gym, I noticed that some of the other people there were giving me curious looks, as though I didn't belong. Terry brushed it off, saying they weren't used to seeing her with someone else. We began the workout, and I tried my best to keep up, but after about 45 minutes, I had to stop. My blood sugar was dropping. As I ate a handful of jelly beans to recover, I couldn't help but notice that Terry kept glancing nervously toward the staff area. I wandered around a bit, trying to look casual, until I found a wall with pictures of the gym staff. At the top was a photo of a woman labeled Miss Elizabeth W.S., director and owner. Below her were 3 more photos, 2 women and 1 man. My heart sank. It was him, Philip, the man from the video. I returned to my seat, trying to stay calm. I looked around, but Terry was no longer at her station. After scanning the gym, I finally saw her, talking to Philip near the entrance to the staff area. She seemed to be preventing him from coming in, gesturing for him to leave. Eventually, she came back to her station, completely unaware that I'd seen her. When she asked if I was okay, I just nodded and suggested we leave. As we were getting ready to leave, one of the other women approached Terry. "It's too bad Philip had to leave early today," she said. Terry quickly dismissed her, and we headed home in silence. She seemed relieved, her eyes closed, breathing slowly. I decided to push a little bit. "That was quite the workout," I said. "No wonder you're looking so fit." "Thanks, honey," she replied. "It's just a shame about Philip. He usually ends the session with something really challenging." I knew exactly how challenging Philip had been making things for her, but I simply said, "Maybe he'll be back next Thursday." I couldn't stop thinking about the upcoming encounter between my wife and Mr. Bonney next Thursday. It was time to act. During the following school week, I was assigned to pick up duty. For those unfamiliar, this is when teachers oversee the school area where parents collect their kids by car after classes. It's usually chaotic, with kids eager to leave, chat with their friends, and spot their parents all at once. For parents, it's a test of patience as they navigate the stop-and-go queue, hoping their child is ready when they reach the front. To my surprise, near the end of pickup, a car pulled up, and the driver was the woman who had approached Terry at the gym the previous evening. "Hi," she greeted me. "I'm really sorry, but I'm new to this pickup routine, and I lost track of time. Is my son Timothy here?" As teachers, we're used to such situations, especially when someone is new to the school, so I assured her I'd find Timothy while my colleagues supervised the remaining kids. I found Timothy near his classroom, chatting with another staff member's child. "Hey, Tim," I said. "Your mom's here to pick you up. Come with me to the pickup area." He seemed a bit confused by this. He was in his final year of primary school and didn't strike me as the type to forget about pickups. "That's strange," he said. "Mom is usually with her gym instructor on Friday afternoons. She often picks me up late. At my previous school, she sometimes didn't arrive until 5:30. The moment he mentioned the gym instructor, my suspicions deepened. I continued the conversation, doing my best to remain composed and casual. "It's good to see your mom taking care of her health. Exercise is an important part of a healthy lifestyle. Do you happen to know the instructor's name?" I asked, hoping the answer wouldn't confirm my fears. "Oh, his name is Bounty or something like that," Timothy replied. "He works at a local gym and gives private lessons at people's homes. That's what I want to do when I grow up. Mom really likes her workouts with him on Friday evenings. She's so relaxed and looks really happy when we get home. It's great." Fridays are always takeout nights because Mom doesn't have time to cook. No way, I thought. This Bondi guy was involved with more than just my wife. I walked Timothy back to his car, where his mom thanked me for my help. "No problem," I said. "It's part of the job. By the way, I don't think we've met before. I'm Gerard, yes. The kids call me Mr. D. Nice to meet you." She shook my hand, and she introduced herself. "Hi, I'm Mary Jones. I remember seeing you at the gym last Thursday. I was there with my wife, Terry. Sorry, she seemed in a rush when we left. Mr. Bonnie's absence really messed up everyone's plans that night." At that moment, her entire demeanor changed. She went from being a nervous parent picking up her kid to suddenly looking pale and uneasy. She seemed almost to tremble as she said, Yes. Okay, I'll see you again, Mr. Downs. Goodbye," before quickly driving off. Update 2 *. It was time to take control of my future, the future I once thought I had planned out with my partner, Terry. Now, it felt bleak, just me, and definitely without Terry. My anger led me down a path I never imagined, the path of revenge. I started meticulously examining all the vital, but often overlooked details that are part of daily married life. Questions like, who pays the bills? Which insurance company do we use? What are the utility bills? From which account are they paid, and when? My list grew. I discovered that we had almost paid off our mortgage, and my retirement account had accumulated to a respectable $900,000. I found myself grateful for our teachers' union, which made compulsory contributions part of our employment terms. After conducting thorough research behind Terry's back, I reluctantly concluded that we would have to split our assets equally. Our children were already financially independent. We also had about $30,000 saved in a cash account for an overseas trip we had planned. That trip was no longer going to happen. My first move was to drain that account before Terry realized I knew about her betrayal. I discreetly caused several household appliances to malfunction. I would disconnect a wire here or loosen something when Terry was out, then claim that we needed repairs, which cost a certain amount, in cash. I would pocket this cash, then fix the appliances myself. Using this method, I managed to put away about $20,000. I also bought tools and other items, always paying in cash, showed them to Terry, then returned them for a cash refund. I knew this was deceitful, but honesty and trust had already disappeared from our relationship. Terry's actions had turned me into someone I never wanted to be, a liar. Terry's Thursday afternoon sessions with Bonnie continued, and I gave up trying to maintain any form of intimacy with her. We lived together like two roommates. Gradually, I moved my personal belongings into boxes in the garage. Terry rarely went into the garage, so she didn't notice. Her car was usually parked in front of it, and she didn't mind that the garage was mostly my domain. She did question the disappearance of some of my things once, but I told her I had broken them or no longer needed them. She accepted these excuses, especially since most of my belongings didn't fit her preferred style or match the ambience she wanted for the house. Once most of my things were gone, the atmosphere in the house didn't change much. It made me realize how much I had allowed Terry to control aspects of our lives. I withdrew as much of my retirement savings as possible and bought a small house on the outskirts of town. It was very compact, just 2 bedrooms and a small yard, but it had a garage and was close to my workplace. Even better, the remaining mortgage was affordable on half my salary. It wasn't a mansion, but you'd be surprised what good deals you can find if you're willing to avoid trendy neighborhoods. My separation plans were in motion. I moved my belongings bit by bit into the new house. Furniture wasn't an issue. I found secondhand pieces at thrift stores. It felt like my life was secondhand, once valued, now discarded, left to charity for any worth. It was time for those who hurt me to get what they deserved. I reconnected with Mary Jones when she approached me during a school pickup. I was alone with her son, Timothy, waiting for her. When she arrived, she looked upset. Her eyes were red, as if she had been crying. As a teacher, I was trained to notice these signs, to understand what was happening in my students' lives. "Mr. D, can I talk to you for a minute?" she asked anxiously. "Of course. Since no one else is here, just park your car and come over," I said, motioning to the bench nearby. I often referred to the benches around the school as my office. She parked while Timothy played with his soccer ball, and we sat on the bench. "I don't know how to start this," she began. "I'm not sure how much you know about the gym where you saw me." I looked at her carefully and replied, "I know that my wife, Terry, enjoys going there, and it's good for her health." She hesitated, struggling to find the words, then continued, "There are things you should know about what really happens there." I wanted to get to the point quickly, so I asked, "Does this have to do with Philip Bont?" She responded passionately, "You have no idea how much that jerk is involved." I said, "I might have an idea, but go ahead." She took a deep breath. "He's a player, targeting many of the women there." When I asked how she knew, tears filled her eyes as she answered, "I was one of them until last week. We met every Friday at 12:30. She paused, looking away as if she were reliving those moments. I too looked away, reminded of similar painful scenes. She apologized. "I'm sorry for telling you this. I actually enjoyed what he did while it lasted. It was only when someone else took my place that he ended it with no explanation, just a simple sorry, no more. I thought we might have a future. I'm divorced, and I miss the affection of being married, so I was excited to feel that again, even with him." I couldn't have been more wrong. I was stunned by her honesty. How could she think it was okay to tell me all of this? She must have been deeply hurt. Trying to console her, I said, "Marriage isn't always what it seems." She looked at my face and saw the pain I was trying to hide. "You already know, don't you?" she asked, shaking her head. "You know he's been involved with Terry, don't you?" I nodded. "Yes, I know. Mary, thank you for telling me." Though I tried to hide the bitterness in my voice, I added, "I've already started putting things in place to deal with this. I believe in karma, and I think it'll catch up to him soon." "That guy needs to pay," Mary said, almost shouting. "He doesn't care about who he hurts as long as he feeds his ego, something to brag about at the bar. If you need help to get back at him, let me know. He deserves to pay, and pay dearly." She called Timothy over and left. I sat there for a long time, deep in thought. Update 3 asterisk, I felt a strange relief after Mary shared her story. For a while, my revenge had felt petty, like it was born out of my inability to save my marriage. But now, I realized I needed to think more deeply. How many other women from the gym was he involved with? It was time to gather hard evidence. I couldn't help but be amazed by his stamina, but perhaps even the devil doesn't tire. I discovered that he worked at the gym every day except Mondays, when it was closed. I remembered the phone number posted on the wall at the gym, and used an online directory to trace it back to an address just a few blocks from my own. It explained how this guy could easily walk to our house for his affairs with my soon-to-be ex-wife. I told Terry I'd be taking a walk each day around 5 p.m., claiming it was a recommendation from my specialist. She had no interest in joining me, and it didn't interfere with her meetings, so it worked out. On my first walk, I went straight to Bonnie's address. He lived in a ground-floor apartment among several similar units. His car wasn't there, so I waited to see when he'd return. He always left our house before 6 o'clock, so I figured he'd be back around then. As expected, he walked into his apartment just before 6 o'clock. I repeated this for several days, except on my staff meeting day. He seemed to follow this routine whenever the gym was open. I wondered if he met different women each day. I decided to find out by starting my walks earlier and earlier. I took a week off work for this. I went to an electronics store and bought what I needed, a discreet, long-range listening device, not the kind that looks like a satellite dish. I also bought motion-activated cameras with full-color HD recording, 5 in total. To store the digital evidence, I got an extra portable hard drive. After buying these items, I set up one of the cameras in Bonnie's apartment. Luckily, it was a small place, a one-bedroom unit with a spacious living and kitchen area. One camera covered everything except the bedroom. Getting it in was easy. I waited for him to leave for the gym, retrieved the key he kept under the doormat, and let myself in. He couldn't have been less careful. Once I made sure the camera was working, I left. Now, whenever he moved or made a sound, the camera would activate, live streaming video and audio to my computer, where everything was saved with timestamps. It began operating as soon as Bonnie returned home on Monday night, capturing crystal clear footage of him as he settled down with a takeout meal in front of his television. He seemed content, oblivious to everything around him, as he sat eating before retiring to bed around 9 p.m. On Tuesday, I decided to take things a step further. Once the gym had closed for the night, I slipped in through the back door. It's often a neglected exit that goes unnoticed during routine pre-closing checks in most facilities. Fortunately, luck was on my side, and I wasn't detected. I carefully placed another camera in the private room located at the back of the gym, the room specifically used for personal health assessments. It was also where Bonnie frequently held private sessions with his clients. As I placed the camera, I couldn't help but wonder what kind of person I had become. Sneaking into someone's space, installing surveillance equipment, essentially spying on people. Where would all of this lead me? Was I losing myself in this quest for revenge? By Wednesday, I found another opportunity. When Terry left for groceries, I discreetly positioned the third and fourth cameras, one in our bedroom and the other in the living area. I felt my heart pounding as I installed them, realizing just how far I had gone. Later, when I reviewed the footage from Tuesday, I was both surprised and unsurprised by what I saw and heard. Bondi had woken up, left the apartment, and returned shortly after with breakfast. I couldn't help but think, lazy guy, can't even make his own breakfast. He then remained at home until the gym opened, leaving at around 10:30 a.m. During this time, he made an intriguing phone call. "Julie, hey, it's Phil. Is he gone yet?" Pause. "Okay, see you at 12:30 at your place. Make sure to wear what I mentioned." "No, I'll be careful. No one will see me come in." "Did you say he's out for 3 days?" "Perfect. Maybe I can come on Thursday and Friday too. We'll talk about it later, lover." After ending the call, he left his apartment, a noticeable spring in his step. I couldn't help but wonder how he planned to explain this situation to Terry. On Thursday, I set up my makeshift surveillance headquarters in the garage, connecting my computer to the camera feeds. I was eager to see what events would unfold. Almost immediately, Bondi's camera feed appeared on my screen. He had woken up, left for breakfast again, and returned to make a call. The number he dialed belonged to Terry, and I could hear her side of the conversation too. "Hey, it's Phil. How's my favorite slut today?" "Phil, don't call me that on the phone. You never know who could be listening. Lucky my husband's at work. I'll see you at 12:30 as usual." Update 4 * Mary, the mother from school, seemed eager to help in whatever way she could. So I asked her if she could compile a list of women that Bondi had been involved with or was currently involved with. She tackled this task with remarkable enthusiasm. Within a week, she came back to me with a list of names and addresses. To my dismay, Terry's name was right there on that list. At this point, I had nearly severed all emotional ties with what used to be our home. It no longer held sentimental value. It was simply a place I stayed. Terry did comment once that the house felt strangely empty these days. I simply told her I was decluttering and getting rid of things I didn't need. She accepted the explanation, since it didn't affect her belongings and even provided her with more space. Meanwhile, I had moved all the items from the garage to my new house. To completely sever myself from Terry, all I needed was about 20 minutes to gather the rest of my things and drive away. I consulted a divorce attorney, and all the necessary paperwork had been drawn up and was ready to be served. The financial side of things had been taken care of. Our joint savings account, intended for the now-canceled vacation, had been drained, with the funds moved into my personal account. I kept every receipt for the fictitious repairs and purchases, neatly organized in a folder just in case they were ever needed as evidence. I also adjusted my retirement account to designate our children as the beneficiaries and withdrew as much as I could. I established new bank accounts, credit cards, and insurance policies in my name only. I transferred the car's registration and insurance solely to her name, making her fully responsible for it from that point onward. Unfortunately, I had no way to fully control what would happen with the house. It would be up to the courts to decide. I bought a new mobile phone, registered in my name with an unlisted number, and made sure the old one was deactivated. I also put together a package of information for each husband or partner of the women Mary had listed. Each package included the details of when and where Bondi had been involved with their partners. It also contained his name, his address, and the address of the local sexual health clinic, given that many of these affairs appeared to be unprotected. Additionally, I sent a letter to the owner of the gym, suggesting it might be time to have a serious conversation with her head instructor. On the kitchen table, I left the divorce papers, printed photos from the video surveillance of Terry and Bondi, and DVDs containing the footage. Next to the bundle, I placed my wedding ring, cut in half and covered in an unpleasant substance. I left a note alongside it. Asterisk Terry, I leave you this broken ring, covered in the same filth that represents what has happened to our marriage. Do not attempt to contact me except through the attorney listed in the divorce papers. I've requested the school to prohibit you from accessing the premises, so do not try to reach me there. Any disruptions on school grounds could lead to swift police intervention. I've also informed our children about my actions so that there is no confusion regarding why this separation happened. Copies of the DVDs have been sent to them, so there are no lies about who is responsible for this split. Asterisk. Final update asterisk. I drove to my new house and waited for the inevitable fallout, which came with full force. Somehow, the local newspapers caught wind of a scandal involving a nearby gym. The owner had no choice but to shut down the business and leave town. Meanwhile, a former gym instructor was found in a downtown alley, having clearly been assaulted by an unknown group of men. The local court was suddenly overwhelmed with divorce petitions, and many houses in the area went up for sale. Terry returned home on that fateful day to find the parting gifts I had left. She fainted on the spot. A neighbor heard her scream and saw her collapse. It didn't take long for our observant 70-year-old neighbor to realize what had happened. She promptly called emergency services before heading back into her house, leaving her door open for them. Terry tried to contact me, but she was unsuccessful. None of the phone numbers she had worked anymore. She even attempted to visit the school, which resulted in her arrest. After spending a night in a holding cell and receiving a stern warning from the magistrate, her efforts to reach me slowed considerably. Our children were vocal in expressing their disapproval of her infidelity. Fortunately, both of them were married and seemed to have inherited their sense of loyalty and fidelity from me, not from Terry. The divorce proceedings concluded without issue, and the remaining financial matters were resolved in the usual manner. Terry was forced to sell the house, and the proceeds allowed her to buy a much smaller home on the outskirts of town, where she now lives alone. The stigma of being known as one of the infamous gym sluts never left her. Whenever she went into town, she faced whispers, sideways glances, and the occasional mocking laugh. The shame and rejection eventually led to depression, and she ended up in a mental health facility. As for me, I continued my teaching career and found peace in my new home, living comfortably and contentedly.